Hi everyone, I am Mindie Kniss and I am here with my husband, Sean Stephenson.
Hello, hello.
We are super excited today to bring some information from our own lives and hopefully it will be helpful to your personal lives. What we're talking about today is how to make a relationship work with a busy life. Now, we do this on a day-to-day basis, so we have had to figure out what in the heck we're doing with our relationship, with our careers, and how to fit it all together. Just to give you a brief background of where we're coming from, both Sean and I are business owners, so we have two separate companies that are running, and there's lots of different things that go on within each of those companies. Do you want to talk a little bit about what yours is, the three compartments?
Well, I wear three hats in my business. I'm a speaker as my main business, and that's traveling around the world presenting to audiences. I'm a therapist, so I see clients here in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I'm also a producer of content. Some people would call me an author, but I create products as well for the internet.
And what I do is most of my time is focused on one-on-one personal coaching, but I also do some speaking, I also lead retreats, and also content generation, writing, etc. So with all of that going on, we have very busy lives and busy careers. We also have a dog, a puppy, I should say. He's 4 months old, so that takes a lot of our time. And what we really wanted to focus in on today is some of the techniques that we use to keep the relationship rocking, keep it going strong, keep it passionate, keep it fun, and really keep the love as the highest priority. Because as you all know, it's really, really easy in today's society with so much stress, financial stress or stress about the kids or the pets or whatever else you have going on in your career. It's very simple to kind of let the relationship stuff slide because, oh, we're married, it's fine, it's all going to work itself out. Well, not really. If you want it to be awesome, as we choose to make it, you have to put in a little bit of effort. And so what we're going to talk about today is the effort that we put in. So we came up with our top 10 big ideas for how to make a relationship work with a busy life. Number 1, understand and respect your partner's need for freedom. Now, I'll start with that one because...
What are you talking about? I am the one that needs my space. I don't like to be crowded energetically.
He's totally
I just need
kidding.
time alone.
Right. Everything that he just said is talking about me. I am an introvert, and what we teach is that there's a continuum. So if you think about a line, one side of that line is connection, and one side of that line is freedom. I'm kind of using it connection because he's the connection side and I'm the freedom side. And each one of you within your relationship will fall somewhere on one side of that line. Now, typically in most relationships, one person will be on one side and one person will be on the other side. You may be really far away from center or you may be really close to center. It doesn't necessarily matter. But what's key is to know where you are and to know where your partner is so that you can always work back toward the center line. So let's talk a little bit more about what those things
So let's start with the freedom, respecting your, because I believe, Mindie and I have been working on this model together, that everybody has both in them.
Yes.
Just like masculine and feminine energy, we have elements of freedom and connection in all of us. It's just how much freedom do you need to be comfortable and how much connection do you need to be comfortable. And so, Mindie, why don't you talk about how a person can be given freedom and feel free?
A way that somebody can be given freedom is by their partner offering them space and time to do things on their own or just separately from, Sean would hang out all day, every day, and I need my space. I need my time.
I could literally cuddle with Mindie 23 out of the 24 hours, maybe 1 hour for eating, separate.
Right. That's true. And me, that's not the way that I...
Mindie could hang out by herself 23 of those hours, maybe see me passing in the hallway for one of those hours, and she'd be fine.
Well, the joke within our marriage, we've been married over 1.5 years now, but the joke is that Sean always says, Mindie would never leave me for another man.
Or a woman, she'd leave me for a mountain or a forest or a beach or something, for nature.
Right, to go off and be by myself. However, this idea of freedom is really about having, it is truly time and space, and kind of merging into our Number 2, our top 10 big idea is that we need to understand and respect your partner's need for connection. So in our case, Sean is the connector side of our relationship. So what that means...
Which is a bit atypical.
Right. That's a good point, is that most of the time, the woman, and this is stereotyping, but it's something that we see as a generality, is that the woman is typically the connector, the man is typically the freedom side. And we have that switched. I'm sure lots of you do as well.
Because I'm comfortable with my
masculinity, femininity,
and my masculinity.
It's all good. And both of us have a lot of each of those. So that's just the way that it turned out. Now, for connection is all about getting and receiving that. It's almost the complete opposite. So if you think about the freedom person needs time and space away, the connection person needs time and space together. And now what happens when...
I should just demonstrate.
Yeah, he'll just cuddle up here.
See, she's already filled for the year.
Yeah, that's enough. Just kidding. What's interesting about it, though, is when either of those things, if you're feeling antsy, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling like you're not, let's say for me, if I'm not feeling free enough, I'm going to pull farther away, meaning further away from that center line.
Ironically,
what's interesting for the connection person is he's going to say, man, I'm feeling starved out. So he's going to come toward me even more to try and connect. Now, that doesn't feel good to me because I'm wanting more freedom. It doesn't feel good to him because he's starved of the connection. So we're both at odds because we're trying to get opposite things and we're going about it in the way that the partner doesn't like. So the key to wrap up all of that is that you need to understand, like I said, what side of the spectrum are you on? What side is your partner on? And then what can you do to facilitate their needs? Because you really need to put their needs ahead.
You have to be proactive.
Totally proactive to be able to say, okay, I know that Sean needs connection. So if I'm going to have a super busy week or a super busy day, I'm going to make sure that I am creating space.
When you're conscious.
Right. Not always. But when we're conscious of this, we need to create the space to offer our partner the connection or the freedom that they need. And he can do the same way.
Absolutely.
He can be like, I'm feeling super connected, but I know Mindie, in order to bring me that in a positive light, I'm going to give her some time and space. Mindie, why don't you go do, something?
Or why don't I go?
Or why don't I leave and go do something else so you have time?
It's just about respecting the formula. And we know people who are both connection. We know people that are both freedom, too.
Relationships.
In relationships. But I still stand by the fact that one is going to be a little bit more of freedom or a little bit more of the connection. And this dynamic, all of your fights, all of your struggles can be really dealt with immediately when you acknowledge that somebody doesn't feel free or somebody doesn't feel connected.
Yeah, it's very true. In almost any disagreement that we've had, any frustration or irritation that we've had, if we do the work to trace it back to where is that coming from, it stems 100% of the time from me not feeling free enough or him not feeling connected.
Baby,
enough.
You never feel irritated by me. Stop lying. All right, number 3.
Number 3 is be fluent in all 5 love languages. Now, the love languages were put out by a brilliant guy named Gary Chapman. He's written a bunch of books about the 5 love languages. And often in relationship courses, you might hear people saying, well, you need to know what your top 1 or 2 is, and you need to know what the top 1 or 2 is for your partner. But we don't think that's enough because really there are 5 different ways of showing and receiving love. And the ideal is to become fluent in all 5. So just quickly, let's go through the 5. There's physical touch. Thanks for the demo. There's quality time. Words of affirmation.
You're beautiful.
Thanks, baby. What am I forgetting? Gifts. Thoughtful gifts.
You want some water?
Thank you. And acts of service. That might be an act of service as well.
Yeah.
So between those 5, you need to figure out, I do think that it's helpful to figure out what your top 1 or 2 is, but then really work on how can I incorporate the other ones, because often they might be totally separate. Sean's are completely opposite from mine. So I need to consciously think about, okay, if I do something like an act of service, to me, that would mean the world. But to him, he's like,
I could hire somebody from India to do that, you know? After you emailed me something that I asked for, who cares?
Right. Doesn't mean the same to him.
I need some cuddling because, I wouldn't cuddle a stranger. Well, I might, but, I probably wouldn't prefer to cuddle a stranger. But if Mindie cuddles me without me asking her to, I feel loved. And the reason why we said for this point, be fluent in all 5, is because we believe that you want to be well balanced in all of these. And the more you pay attention to, wow, like we have other ways that we can show each other love and feel love. Like there's one thing that Mindie does, it's an act of service. She refills this water jug thing in my bathroom that I wash my hands with. And I've grown to feel loved from that. Now, I wasn't when I wasn't conscious about that that's an act of service, that's a sign of love from Mindie.
Yeah, and a lot of it really just comes down to paying attention, quite honestly. And that, again, can be hard when we get really busy with other things. But when you do pay attention to what your partner's needs are, what their desires are, and then you can fulfill them, it's really helpful. So, moving on to number 4, place being on the same page as the highest priority. It's all about team first.
Huge. So what does that mean? Well, we feel that being on the same team and being on the same page means that the outside world could be crumbling. You could be going through a lawsuit with some outside person. You could be going into foreclosure with your home. You could have a child who has a sickness. Whatever is going on that could be chaotic or difficult. But if you're on the same page with your partner, then you don't feel like you're alone in this world. Then you feel like you have a power that is behind you and that will get you when you fall, when you are weak, when you are scared. And being on the same page is so important because I see couples that break down, especially busy, entrepreneurial-based couples. It's when being on the same page isn't even thought of as important.
Right, it doesn't matter.
Where it's like, I'm just going to take care of myself, you go take care of yourself, and we'll just make this work. And it's not all about that. It's really about, hey, I'm not feeling like you're on the same page with me. You might feel like you're on the same page with me, but I'm not feeling it.
Right.
So it's whenever somebody's not feeling it, it becomes an issue.
Yeah, and a really great example of that is, just to share a little personal story, is Sean's parents. Because there's a statistic out there that 97% of couples that have a child with any sort of disability break up. 97%. And his parents, when he was born, and they were like, whoa, what are we going to do with this kid? They were fully 100% committed to the team to say, we're going to stick together and figure this out. And I think, a lot of people would say, oh, nobody does that anymore. But they do. And I just wanted to offer that as a great example. Because especially within that huge stress, a child with a disability, holy cow, how are we going to make this work? They were able to say, this has got to be the top priority, sticking together, being on the same page. And they have, and they're still married today and have a great relationship. So it does work. Stories are out there. Moving on then to number 5. Acknowledge Carl Jung's model.
You got a new accent today?
Yes, I do.
Tomato.
I'm not going to have you on this program anymore because it makes me laugh too much.
Sorry for making this funny.
Carl Jung's model is that we love our unconscious mind. Now, what he's referring to is those things that are repressed in us are often expressed in our partners and vice versa. So with Sean and I tend to be more introverted. I tend to be more inward focused, freedom-based, and just quieter in general. Sean is the complete opposite.
I'm goofy. Like Mindie's more serious. I'm far more lazy. She's far more focused. I care more about, because I'm a connector, I care more about how the room of people are interacting and are people feeling good. Whereas Mindie, it's not that she doesn't care. It's just it's not her highest priority to ask, I wonder if this person's upset with that person. That doesn't get on her radar as much as it does for me. So what's great about knowing that we fall in love with our unconscious mind is it kind of takes to the next level that cheesy Jerry Maguire quote, "You complete me." It's not that you complete me, it's you teach me where I have more to grow.
Right.
And so if people end up marrying somebody who has aspects to their personality that are totally opposite of them, they actually can learn from that. Not say, oh, you're mathematical, you handle the bills, I'm nurturing, I'll handle the children. I don't think it's about divvying it up. It's about learning. You know, like Mindie is way better because of her background in education in things like grammar, punctuation, flow of writing. And, you know, I did not have that going into this marriage. And so now I am learning, oh, there is a difference between a period and a comma. There is a difference between a colon and a semicolon. I didn't know that well. Mindie was proficient at it. So now we can learn. Same thing with, she came into this marriage. I have been a professional speaker for years. I had been the one that would just dominate on stage. And Mindie has learned how to take that on herself so that when she gets up on stage, she's even more dynamic. We learn from each other. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's what makes it really fun, too. And, you know, I see so many relationships in my clients and people that we know that their relationship, there's no growth there. I mean, even in our marriage vows, we committed to constant growth because we thought if this isn't expanding, if we ourselves are not expanding within this unit of marriage, then yeah, we should not be together at that point, because what is the point then if you're not expanding and growing? And one of the really cool aspects with us is that even the course of our studies and the course of our work is in some ways opposite, but is also the perfect complement to each other. Sean's focus was on hypnosis and the unconscious mind, and lots of neuro-linguistic programming and that
very heady stuff,
all in the head. Mine has been all in the heart, looking at neurocardiology and those types of things, heart intelligence.
Now, why is that? Why did I study the head and you study that?
Because guess what? Those were the things that were repressed in ourselves. So we wanted to go out into the world and learn about them, and yet we find perfect examples of that in our partner. So for instance, I wanted to learn about the heart because I'm typically in my head. Sean is all in his body.
I'm rarely in my head.
That's true. Sean is all in his body. I'm really glad on camera you got your bouncing around. And vice versa.
But I'm a very physical. I mean, it makes sense. I'm very touchy-feely. Yeah. That comes from being in my body. I'm aware that there's more below the neck. Whereas if you're head-driven, then it's like, oh, I got this thing to do something with called my body. Oh,
yeah. So you know, as I'm saying, it's very much complementary. And in any relationship, you can look for the things that are maybe lacking in you, and you can learn them from your partner, and vice versa. So it just keeps it fun. It keeps the growth happening. Number 6, stick to your own when life works list. Now, since you created that, why don't you talk about what is a when life works list?
Well, I think it is the most powerful tool for eliminating insecurity, fears, and excuses. And what it is it's a list of about anywhere from 10 to 16, I would say, action items that you can do to get your life back on track. And these are the things, the best way to put it together is to think back to when in your life you were really on fire. You were in flow. And when you were in flow and on fire, what were you doing? Inflow and fire in your business, inflow and fire in your health, inflow and on fire in your relationship. And so you look, oh, wow, you know what? I kept my room organized. You know what? I hit the gym. You know what? I meditate. You know what? I write my goals out the night before on what I'm going to work on. And you get this list of 16 action items. And then you post them in your office, in your wallet, on your computer, wherever you are quite frequently around. And if you want to have a good day and you want to get to be very calm within your own mind, all you need to do is pick at least a quarter of your list to do that day. You don't have to do all 16 or all 10. That's a lot, and it's not going to happen probably. But if you just picked a quarter of your list and did them, you would feel energized. You would feel empowered.
Yeah, really.
How have you seen that in your life?
Well, what it does is it creates a really strong foundation for you to go out into the world and do what it is that you need to do. A lot of times, especially as an entrepreneur or, in relations, all these things can come in, obstacles, challenges. But if you are taking care of yourself first, if you are filling up your own well, if you will, then you have a plethora from which to offer.
Yep.
You have the ability to have this really firm foundation to then go out into the world and do whatever it is that you need to do, especially when obstacles and challenges come up or insecurities, because that's when it matters the most. It's really easy when things are going well to kind of let that when life works list kind of slide and, oh, it's not that important because, everything's rolling and it's great. Well, let me tell you, when the stuff starts hitting the fan, you need to get back to it.
And the last point I would say about this is you can't give what you don't have, right? You can't bring love and consciousness and presence to your partner if you don't have it yourself. Right. That's why it's the when life works list. It's got to be your list. Your own. You create it separate. My list is different than Mindie's list.
Yeah, and another point to that is that it can't, anything on your list, it has to be something that you personally are responsible for. It can't be like, oh, my life works when
Mindie does the
Sean
dishes.
helps do the dishes or whatever. It has to be something you are in charge of that you can make happen by yourself. Now, some things, like one thing on his list is to connect intimately on a daily basis.
Which is perfect for number 7.
Which is perfect for number 7. But just to bring home that point of it has to be your thing, potentially some partner interaction, but you ultimately are responsible. So with that nice segue of connecting intimately, number 7 is great sex must involve exploring the mind, body, and spirit. One of the most beautiful videos I think I've ever seen was this really, many of you might have seen it. It was viral on YouTube for a long time. It was this really elderly couple, and they were saying, we make love all the time. We could be sitting across the room from each other, and yet we're still making love. There is that much connection between us. And I thought, holy cow, these people are in, their 90s or whatever they were. And
Mindie and I are making love as we speak. You should probably ban this and put a black box around it.
But that's exactly our point, is that love is an act of physical intimacy, but it's also so much more. The sex actually is enriched when you are present in mind, in spirit, and in body when you actually go to do the act. And that takes a lot of consciousness, especially when you have a busy lifestyle, because you've got a million things going on in your head. All these, oh, well, I have to do this later. I have to do that. Oh, I forgot to do this other thing.
This is why I don't use my head much. All right.
So that, did you have a
No, I was just going to say number 8.
All right, number 8. Hold your partner with an open hand, not closed. Now, what we're talking about here is there are 2 ways to hold anything in life. One is like this, and some of you may have seen me do this before because I talk about it all the time. So this type of holding is similar to choking or suffocating, wringing the life out of whatever it is that you're holding. And of course, we're talking metaphorically here, so you could be holding your partner. You could be holding a career. You could be holding on to anything in life. So this is the first way to hold something. The second way to hold something is like this. Just open hands, palms up. And this offers a lot of freedom.
Oh, how much you love that.
Oh, freedom. Now, the scary thing about holding your partner like this is then people could say, well, what if it leaves?
Yeah.
Because I'm not holding it like this. It's not safe in my grip. It's open. And I say, yeah, exactly. That's the point, because then guess what? They're choosing to stay.
The best example of that I've seen in personal growth, Byron Katie said, if my partner ever came to me and said, sweetie, I don't want to be married to you anymore. I need to go. She says the best response you can say to that person is, would you like help packing your bags?
Yeah.
And it's that level of like, whoa, we don't lock the door on our marriage, to be like, monogamy is this experience of, you can never leave me. We've heard that before from couples.
Yeah, we
you
know
can
a lot
never
of people,
leave me.
Or if I do this, will you swear to be with me all forever? And I'm like,
no, I actually believe it's the opposite by saying, you know what, if you need to go, go. It actually creates the freedom it's scary for a connection person to say it, but it creates the space where Mindie or whomever that would be more freedom-based would be like, well, what if I don't want to go? What if I want to work this out? And it creates that bringing back together.
Yeah, it's really a beautiful metaphor of just, how are you holding it, like this or like this? So, number 9, stay in the fire even when it's difficult. Now, this idea, we've also talked about this a lot. It comes from the poem, The Invitation, by Oriah Mountain Dreamer. And I wish I could quote it precisely for you now, but I can't remember. But anyway, to paraphrase, she says, what she's looking for, essentially, is someone who will stand in the fire with her, even when it's hard, even when it's hot, even when it's burning your feet. And what we are referring to in that case is that the fire is when challenges come up.
When we're triggered.
When things happen. Triggers are pulled with each other or pushed, and things are frustrating. There are challenges, there are obstacles, and we're like, "Urgh." And yet we can choose, because a lot of people don't choose this. I want to stress that it's a choice, and it's quite simple of a choice. A lot of people choose to just brush it under the rug and not deal with it.
Walk away,
run away. There's so many ways that people can avoid it,
intimidate,
or do those, right, to make it even worse. But if you stand in the fire with your partner, you're willing to take whatever it is that's going to come out of them, and some of it can be very painful or very hurtful, and yet the reason that you can stand in that fire while your own feet are burning with them is you see how much pain they're in. You see that it must be so much hurt that they're experiencing, because otherwise why would they be, pushing that out toward you? So standing in the fire is really a strong commitment to doing what it takes to get through those challenges, to get past those trigger points, to get, to continue on down the road of growth, instead of saying, well, who cares? Don't worry about it or forget about it.
And so whenever we stand in the fire, it brings us to number 10, because I think it's a perfect segue. Mm-hmm. When you're in the fire for too long, you well up. You well up with energy. You well up with emotion, and tears begin to just hide behind your eyes. And that brings us to number 10.
So number 10 is a term that we use a lot called wring out the towel. There's no festering or harboring when you wring out the towel. Now, wringing out the towel can look different to different people. For some people, it might be, as Sean was saying, just crying, just letting that guard down and just letting your tears flow. That's wringing out the towel. For other people, it might be a sexual release, and that is kind of just this release of energy and wringing out the towel in that way. Are there other ways that you can think of that?
Well, I think it's everybody probably has their own aspect of wringing out the towel. What I think is more important to close up here is to say that the towel is not supposed to be heavy. It's not supposed to be sopped with energy. It's just like the quote, like, a great mind is, like a parachute. It works when it's open. It's like you can't be all closed. You can't be all, suffocating yourself. You have to be open. You have to let out all of those energetic blockages that you have going on. And so when you stay in the fire, the next thing to do is to wring out the towel with your partner. I literally can tell when Mindie needs to wring out the towel. Her nose gets bright red. She makes absolutely no sense. If I say it's dark, she says it's light. I can't do any wrong, or any right, I should say. And Mindie, when do you know it's time for me to wring out the towel? When I get all like crabby, or
you get completely emo?
Yeah, I do.
And normally Sean's a pretty happy-go-lucky guy.
I put on Nirvana and I just cry.
He's a disaster. So and with any of you, you can know what your partner's kind of signs are or symptoms of needing to wring out the towel. And then the thing is to call them on it, to get to that point more quickly than just letting it go or being like, oh, deal with it yourself, because we are in a partnership. That's what relationship is all about. So those were our top 10 tips for how to make this stuff work, how to make relationships work when you have a busy life, busy schedule. We hope that's been helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching.